Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris, and we're here to talk about running backs that should be in your lineup for week 14 of the fantasy football season. So before we get to our list, let's talk about the no-brain must-start running backs that should be in your lineup regardless of matchup. Players like Austin Ekeler, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, assuming he plays, and possibly Dalvin Cook if he's in the lineup. All right, let's start by taking a look at the running backs who are clear starters for their team, and we're gonna let you know if we like their matchup this week or not. So let's start with the guy who's filling in for Dalvin Cook. So if Cook is still out, which it sounds like he will be, but again, if he's in, you play him. If not, it's another week of Alexander Mattison. Going against Pittsburgh this week, not as easy as Detroit, so do you still start him?
Oh yeah, I still think he's a must start. Obviously, not as good of a matchup as Detroit, but this Steelers defense still reeling, still playing terribly, so I think you've got to start Alexander Mattison.
Agree. I mean, Vikings, for better or worse, they don't know how to win close games, but they do know how to run the ball and score points. I think you got to start him. All right, now let's talk about Detroit. DeAndre Swift has been out, ruled kind of week to week. Don't know if he's going to go this week. If he does, do you just plug him right back in?
Yeah, I think you have to. It's not the best matchup against Denver, but the good thing for Swift is we know he does most of his damage in the passing game. So I think if he plays, you got to start him.
Yeah, I mean, if he does play, I guess you can roll him out. It's a maybe for me. I'm still kind of sketchy on how much work he's going to get, so I don't feel great about it. But again, you probably don't have a guy with higher upside, so it depends. It's a solid maybe for me. What about Jamal Williams, with or without Swift?
Well, with Swift, definitely no. He can be on your bench. Without Swift, I think he's like an okay start, a low-end RB2. Like, he didn't get the passing game involvement we were hoping for against Minnesota. He did get 70% of the running back carries, so that was a nice thing. But in a tough matchup against Denver, he's more like a flex level type of guy. So definitely not a must start, but an okay start.
Yeah, against Denver, that's a tough defense, much tougher than Minnesota. And it seems like they're back to trying to rely on Jared Goff. It actually works, so I think they're going to pass a little bit more. I don't like it. Even without Swift, I'm going to say no to Jamal Williams in week 14. All right, let's get to a player that we're going to have a lot of questions about this week. I know that we've taken a lot of flack, especially you, for supporting Saquon Barkley all season long. And look, I'm right there with you. I feel like he's going to turn it around, but it's hard to keep the faith. Is it going to happen this week against the Chargers?
I mean, hopefully. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think he'll have an okay game. The real issue here is touchdown upside. It's just not there because this offense can score touchdowns. So I think he's an okay start because the matchup is so good. Probably not going to have a monster ceiling, but an okay start.
You know what? I'm going to be the optimist here because I had him as a bust last week. It was a bad matchup against Miami. This is a good matchup. I know Mixon didn't do much against the Chargers, but I feel like with a third-string quarterback, they're going to have to rely on Barkley. I mean, there's nothing else at this point that the Giants can do except see what he's capable of with a full workload. I'm going to say yes to Barkley. It's got to happen this week. All right, what about touchdown machine James Conner? But going against the Rams, definitely a tough matchup there. Is he a must start?
It is a tough matchup, but I still think you have to have him as a must start because, like you said, that touchdown upside is there. He's getting so much work. I just think he's a guy you can't really bench him. Granted, if he doesn't score a touchdown, he may not do a ton in this matchup, but he scores a touchdown every week, so must start.
Yeah, dude literally scores every single week. Until he stops doing that, he's a must start. You've got to keep him in your lineup regardless of the opponent. Now, David Montgomery had a nice week in 13, and this time going against the Green Bay Packers, a good defense. What do you feel? Can you keep it going here, even though Andy Dalton's at quarterback?
No, I think he'll have an okay game, but I don't think he's a must-start type of player. The Green Bay's defense has been really, really good this year, so okay start, but not a must-start.
Yeah, I definitely don't think the numbers will be like they were last week, but he's still one of the few workhorse backs. I kind of feel like you have to keep him in your lineup because he's also getting the pass-catching work. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. All right, normally a must-start. Last week I had him as a no-brainer, but Cordarrelle Patterson, interestingly enough, not being used as a receiver so much. He's strictly playing the running back role. So how do you feel about him against Carolina? You still going to feel like he's got to be in your lineup?
I'm leaning towards no. I mean, still a good start. Still definitely a good start. I feel like he's kind of fallen off that must-start bubble because, like you said, He's only has an 11% target share over the last 2 games. He's primarily just playing running back now, which the whole appeal of Cordero Patterson was that you got a running back and a wide receiver. So still a good start, but I don't think he's a must start anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing the things that made him so valuable aren't happening, though. Scoring a touchdown every week and getting all that receiving work. If he's just a running back, man, that definitely limits him. And they're actually throwing the ball to other receivers. But I'm still going to say yes just because he gets used so much. I'm going to say yes to Cordero Patterson for this week. All right, and the flip side of that matchup, Chuba Hubbard going to be the guy now in Carolina because, of course, no CMC. Did okay in his time as a starter, replacing the CMC earlier in the year. How do you feel about him against Atlanta?
Again, not quite must-start level, but I feel very good about him because it's Atlanta, and they're terrible. So he's going to get the bulk of the work. Obviously, Cam might vulture a touchdown or two, but getting the bulk of the work in a good matchup, good start. Not quite must-start, but a good start.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Kind of a good but not great start. I'll just say right now, I'm kind of worried he's going to lose passing down work to Amir Abdullah. I don't know if they trust him in the passing game, so I don't think we're going to see the same amount of volume and production as we did earlier in the year, but he's still a solid start in this matchup, at least. Let's go on to the Jaguars. James Robinson, not a good week for him, been banged up, lost a fumble. Can you trust him in week 14?
Probably not, but you kind of have to, right? Because kind of like, guys like David Montgomery who are just getting so much work that you have to put him in your lineup. Now, as long as he doesn't fumble, he should still be the lead back and get the majority of the work. So definitely not a must start, but like an okay start.
I'm going to, for the second week in a row, say no to James Robinson. I mean, the matchup is actually worse than people would think. Tennessee, for all their troubles on offense, they're one of the best run defenses in the league. And I've been slowly backing away from Jacksonville's entire offense this year. James Robinson, he's kind of like the rat in the sinking ship. He's going down with it. Not his own fault. But I'm going to say no. I don't want a piece of James Robinson this week. All right, now let's tackle the Rams backfield. A lot of headaches last week, a lot of questions about who to start. It was nice of them to activate Darrell Henderson and then not play him at all. Thanks for that, Sean McVay. But anyways, let's assume Darrell Henderson does play in week 14, which we assume against the Cardinals. If he's active, do you play him?
I do, because I'm not convinced Michel has taken this backfield or will get more work than he normally does. Because we saw this earlier in the season when Michel was a starter against Tampa Bay and Henderson was out. Everybody thought Michel had earned a role, and then he had no role as soon as Henderson came back. So I think if Henderson plays, he's the guy in what should be a high-scoring matchup. You got to start him.
I hate to say must start, but here's the thing. We know exactly like you said, if Henderson is good to go, he's going to be the guy, and Michel is going to be irrelevant. I just don't trust the workload because we've seen the Rams abandon the run, right, when they need to. And against the Cardinals, you have a feeling that they're not going to be front runners in this game. I think they're going to go back and forth with the passing attack. So I just don't have a lot of trust in Henderson. I'm going to say he's just a maybe okay start if you need him, but I have some issues. Maybe they do give Michel more work. But let's talk about Sony Michel. What if Henderson doesn't play? Does that make Michel an automatic start?
Yeah, I think so. We saw here in week 13, he had, 90% of the snaps, pretty much every single touch out of that backfield. There's nobody behind these two running backs. So if Henderson is out, you've got to start Michel.
I'm going to follow up what I just said and stick with it and say maybe. You could start Michel, but I don't feel like he's an absolute must start because, again, this matchup won't be nearly as kind as it was last week against Jacksonville. So I think if Henderson is out, then Michel is a good start. But I'm not counting on 100-plus yards. All right, Antonio Gibson, a little bit of a letdown last week, but this time is going against the Cowboys. Big game here for both teams. What do you feel about Gibson?
I think Gibson is in must-start territory these days, especially if McKissick misses again, because not only is he getting a ton of carries, but he's getting work in the passing game, which was the big issue with him early in the season. So I think he's a must-start.
Yeah, I'm going to say must start. His rushing totals, we were expecting huge rushing output. Didn't happen, but he did get in the end zone, so that's good. And like you said, I think McKissick might be out again. Even so, this offense is going to run through Gibson's. Yes, very good start here. And then what about Josh Jacobs? He's been banged up too, but he's back to workhorse role. And we know Kenyon Drake out for this season. That just solidifies it even further. So is he a lock for fantasy lineups?
I think he's a must start, but that doesn't mean I think he's going to have a huge game. But I think you have to start Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, volume, that's what we want, right? We crave that kind of volume. He's getting it. Hey, he's not the most efficient back, but kind of regardless of matchup, I think the fact that he's getting so many targets in the passing game means you have to start him. So he's a yes for me. You already know the answer to this one. Eli Mitchell, just put that check mark up there now. Yes, you start him. Who are they playing? I don't know, Cincinnati. Start him.
Yeah, as long as he clears concussion protocol, he's a must start. Absolutely.
What about CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire going against the Raiders?
No, definitely not a must start. I'm going to say must sit even because we saw in this game here in Week 13, Darrell Williams is running more routes and catching more passes than Edwards-Helaire, which is really capping his ceiling. So not the worst matchup, but just don't like it. Must sit for me.
Yep, we've seen Williams at times looks like the better back. Just like we thought Edwards-Helaire was coming on. It's going to be an ugly timeshare, and the Chiefs' offense just isn't what it used to be. And then Mark Ingram, again, let's assume Kamara doesn't play. We don't know yet, but it's possible he's out again. So does that make Ingram a must start?
Yeah, against the Jets, any running back except Rex Burkhead and David Johnson are must starts.
Yeah, we don't even need to put Rex Burkhead up, but Ingram, if Kamara doesn't play, must start. If Kamara does play, I'm going to go ahead and say you can still start Mark Ingram. You agree with that?
Yeah, I think he'll be like flex worthy because, again, it's the Jets. There's plenty of opportunity here, so he'll be flex worthy if Kamara plays.
All right, now let's take a look at some of these committees or split backfields and see how we feel about them. Let's get going with Cleveland. Had the week off. You got Nick Chubb. You need Kareem Hunt. All right, with Chubb, normally people say he's a set and forget back, but is he against the Ravens?
No, I mean, we just saw this 2 weeks ago. They shut him down. Now, Nick Chubb can break off a big run at any time, and you got to think Cleveland's going to be more prepared for what the Ravens did on defense. But no, I don't think he's a must start. I think he's a good start, but not a must start. Also, Kareem Hunt wasn't quite 100% in that game. I think he's going to be 100% now. So not a must sit, but not a must start.
Hard for me to say not to start Chubb. I know Baltimore's been really good on run defense lately. I know Chubb didn't always have success, but I think you still got to keep him plugged in there. The touchdown upside is always there. The big play potential is always there. So, I mean, you got to have a really solid running back core to sit Nick Chubb. I'm going to still say yes. And then Kareem Hunt, I feel the same way. I mean, you know that the game script goes the other way and they're down. He's going to get the pass catching work. So I'm going to say yes to Kareem Hunt. You agree?
No, I'm going to say the same thing about Kareem Hunt I said about Chubb. I think he's a good start, not necessarily a must start, because, again, this Ravens run defense is just so good. And
all right, well, let's get to Green Bay. Another high-profile running back, Aaron Jones, missed some time, had the bye, also coming off a week of vacation. Going against Chicago, must start RB1 status again.
This one's really tough for me. I want to say yes. The matchup's not that bad at all. He should be fine. I do worry a little bit about Dylan's involvement, but I'm going to say yes, Aaron Jones must start.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say not a must start. Probably you'll start him. You know, he's a strong play, obviously. But we've seen his workload get reduced. I just don't think he's an automatic start anymore because A.J. Dillon is a presence there. And A.J. Dillon, same thing. I mean, you don't need to start him in this matchup. You can flex him out if you need to, but to me, he's not a must start.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely not a must start. And in fact, I would say almost a must sit unless you're really desperate.
All right, now Dallas, you would think Zeke would be up there. He isn't a guarantee. Some people are definitely panicking, as you know about him. So going against the football team, their defense has been much improved. I don't think it's an overreaction to say I don't think that Zeke is a must start anymore.
Yeah, probably not a must start, but you can't really bench Ezekiel Elliott because he's still getting the bulk of the work there. And he's getting the goal line look, so maybe not must start, but I still think he's a good start.
True. I mean, to me, he's just kind of in that Aaron Jones zone where the potential is there, the talent's there, but he's just not 100%. And so Tony Pollard, again, a lot of people expect great things from him, but he's still the backup to Zeke, so I'm also going to say not a must start.
Yeah, not a must start. I mean, he had a 100-yard kickoff return, and he had a 58-yard touchdown last week. Other than that, he hasn't really done much, so definitely not a must start.
All right, now let's talk about everyone's favorite rookie running back, Javonte Williams. I mean, he kind of did what we hoped he would do with the backfield to himself. So we're kind of hoping that Melvin Gordon doesn't come back, but he probably will. So Javonte Williams, with or without Gordon, I mean, you got to keep him in your lineup, don't you?
I mean, without Gordon, he's an absolute must start. I still think with Gordon, he's a start because they're playing Detroit. So I think even with Gordon, he's not a must start, but a good start.
Oh, yeah. To me, no brain, must start Javonte Williams. And you know what? Gordon comes back. We know they're going to split time against Detroit. I'm going to say yes to him too.
Yeah, I agree. If Gordon comes back, as long as we don't hear anything about him being limited or less than 100%, I agree. Good start.
Now, in Baltimore, it looks like it's pretty much Devontae Freeman's backfield now. Does that make him an every week RB2? Going against Cleveland, it's okay on paper, the matchup. I think you got to say yes. He's a guy that you can trust to get enough carries, get the goal line work.
I don't think I'm ready to pin must start on Devonta Freeman yet. A good start, but not a must start.
And then let's talk about Tennessee's wonderful backfield here. Guys, you did not think it would be fantasy relevant at the beginning of the season. Let's start with Dontrell Hilliard. Going against Jacksonville, I mean, got the potential for a big game there.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to say must start, but it's Jacksonville. There's plenty of opportunity here, so I'll say good start.
Maybe I'm going out on a limb a little too much, reading too much into his previous week before the bye. I think, yes, going against Jacksonville because he's not only kind of the 1B as the runner, but he's the guy who's getting the pass catching work. So I really like his upside. D'Onta Foreman, I'll say he's a maybe, but he's flexible at least.
Yeah, I agree. He's an okay flex option because, again, it's Jacksonville. There's opportunity here, so not a must start, but an okay start.
All right, there you go. Randan has many running backs we can think of that might be fantasy relevant. Now, of course, you're probably going to have a lot of questions here based on your roster. The time to ask is Saturday night when we do our live start sit show. You can join us, and if you become a patron, then there's a way that you can get an exclusive start sit show on Sunday mornings. You can join us. So check out the description below. We got all sorts of other ways to help you win in fantasy. Read on for more information. All right, guys, thanks for watching.